Kim Jae-hyun stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The room was vast, with walls of polished metal that reflected the light of distant stars. Alien counselors sat around a circular dais, their forms strange and varied, tentacles, scales, odd limbs, but they all looked serious. The hum of quiet conversation filled the air. Jae-hyun's heart beat steadily. He was calm, but inside he felt the weight of a moment that might shape humanity's future among the stars. Next to him, Lee Min adjusted her tablet nervously. She was young, but she knew languages better than many. She had worked long hours to help translate human ideas into alien meanings. Not far behind stood Park Soo-jin, the human security advisor. Soo-jin was tall, strong, and always alert. She watched the counselors with careful eyes, distrust hidden in her face. This summit was historic. Humans had come from Earth to join the Galactic Council. For years, they sent scouts, travelers, and trade missions. Now, they were here for peace talks. It was a big step. If humans succeeded, they would be respected. If they failed, they risked being isolated, or worse. Jae-hyun cleared his throat and raised his voice. "Honored counselors," he began, "we come in peace." His tone was formal, but firm. He described humanity's desire to cooperate, to share knowledge, and to contribute to the council. He talked about how humans had learned from their own wars, how they believed in protecting weaker species, and how they could bring new ideas. Some in the hall nodded gently. Ambassador Tyra Durrell, a graceful alien with soft green skin and large, expressive eyes, seemed moved. She leaned forward, but others were less kind. Counselor Varric of the Sileni sat rigidly, his reptilian features tight. Varric's tail flicked once. His eyes did not soften. As Jae-hyun spoke, Min-hee watched Varric closely. She could sense his hidden thoughts. It was not only what he said, but how he held himself. The cold precision, the way his claws tapped lightly on the armrest. He wanted something. Maybe he saw humans not as equals, but as a threat. Toward the end of his speech, Jae-hyun made the key proposal. Humanity offered to sign a treaty. This treaty would guarantee peace. It would also give humans a seat on the Council's advisory board and access to shared technology. But in return, humans would disarm some of their military forces to show they were not a threat. A hush fell over the chamber. Many alien counselors glanced at each other. The proposal was generous, but it hurt human pride. For humans, giving up military power was not easy. Soo-jin's jaw tightened as she waited for the responses. First, Ambassador Tyra spoke. "Humanity's gesture is brave," she said softly. "It shows you want real cooperation." She smiled, and her voice carried warmth. That gave Jae-hyun hope. Then came Counselor Varric. His voice was low, measured. "Trust must be earned," he said. "We are not sure you are ready. Disarmament is a step, but is enough." He looked directly at Jae-hyun. The counselor's gaze was sharp, as if he was testing him. Other voices joined. Some agreed with Tyra, calling for a chance. Others echoed Varric's caution. A third group stayed quiet, exchanging glances, their alien faces inscrutable. He felt tension growing. She raised her hand and asked a question. "If humans disarm, how will the Council help ensure our security? What guarantees will there be?" Her voice was steady. She meant to make the offer fair, not naive. Varric gave a slow, cold smile. "Guarantees are hard in peace. We ask for more than words. We ask for action." He paused and leaned back, his scales catching the light. "We propose that humans give up half of the military assets in their frontier fleets." Gasps echoed in the hall. The price was steep. For humans, losing half their fleet was dangerous. Many of their ships protected their colony worlds. Soo-jin felt sweat prick her skin. She stood ready, but at this moment she could not act. This was diplomacy. Jae-hyun swallowed. He felt the weight of responsibility. If they agreed, their defense would weaken. If they refused, the Council might distrust them forever. He raised his voice again. "We are not small children who can be bullied by threat. Humanity has fought hard for its safety. We will not give up half of our fleet without real guarantees of protection." Silence. Then, a murmur went around the hall. Some counselors stared at Jae-hyun in shock. Others nodded slowly. Tyra looked concerned. Varric's scales flickered with cold light. His face was still stone. At that moment, Jae-hyun knew something important. This was not simply a negotiation. It was a test. The council had expected humans to give in easily. They expected fear. But humans had strength. They had pride. Soo-jin stepped forward, surprising Jae-hyun. Her voice was firm. If you force us to disarm too much, you weaken not only us, but the balance of this council. That might bring danger to all. We do not want war, but we cannot trust blindness. Her words echoed in the grand hall. Quiet grew even louder. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jae-hyun nodded slowly. We will not sign under the current clause, but we remain open. Humanity wants a real partnership, not a trap. Tyra's eyes softened. She leaned forward and whispered something to another counselor. Varric's expression hardened. The room felt like it held its breath. When the session ended, the human delegation retreated to a small antechamber. He leaned against a smooth wall, her face thoughtful. Soo-jin paced, her boots clicking softly on the floor. Jae-hyun looked out a window, watching distant stars drift by. He broke the silence. Are you sure this is wise? She asked quietly. They may take offense. Jae-hyun turned. If we back down now, they would always doubt us. Better to stand firm and walk away than to give them a false peace. Soo-jin nodded, but her jaw was tight. I just hope we are ready for what comes. In that moment, the human delegation felt strongly united. Despite the danger, despite the risk, they had made a choice. They would not simply beg for approval. They would demand respect. As they left the chamber, Jae-hyun paused. He took a deep breath, letting the weight of his decision settle. The path ahead was uncertain, but he believed humanity could do this. He believed that strength and diplomacy could go hand in hand. He looked at Min-hee and Soo-jin. No matter what happens, he said softly, we stand as one. And with that, they walked away from the council session, leaving murmur and concern in their wake. The future of humanity among the stars had begun with refusal, and the council would remember. The human delegation's ship glided quietly through space as it left the massive council station behind. Inside, the mood was tense. Jae-hyun stood on the ship's observation deck, staring out at the distant stars. Lee Min-hee sat nearby, going over her notes for the next meeting, her face tight with concern. Park Soo-jin paced the deck, her steps echoing on the metal floor, ready for anything. On this journey home, they had much to talk about. In the conference room, Jae-hyun began. We must weigh our decision carefully. Withdrawing may slow progress, but if we accept their demands now, we risk losing what little leverage we have. Min-hee nodded. They expect us to show weakness. If we agree to disarm half of our frontier fleet, they will think we are easily intimidated, but they also fear our strength. They do not yet trust our power. Soo-jin stopped pacing. She leaned forward, her voice low but firm. They might use our disarmament to strike later. Our colonies on the frontier are still vulnerable. Without our full fleet, we cannot defend them well. Jae-hyun closed his eyes for a moment. He knew she was right. I understand, Soo-jin, but we also need allies. If we pull out completely, some of their more moderate leaders may forget us, or worse, turn against us. Min-hee raised her head. Ambassador Tyra is already trying to help. She said she would bring our concerns to her faction quietly. We could open a back channel, speak with those who want peace. Soo-jin frowned. Back channels are risky. We do not know who truly supports us. Some may promise peace now, but side with Varric later. Jae-hyun weighed both sides. If we go home now, it will be seen as a retreat. But if we stay and they push harder, we may be forced into a corner. Min-hee sighed. We need a plan that holds both strength and goodwill. They spent the next few hours drafting a strategy. Min-hee proposed a two-step plan. 1. Reinforce their frontier defenses quietly. 2. Reach out to aliens who had shown sympathy. They would send covert envoys to allies like Tyra and others, and they would strengthen their military readiness, without provoking open war. Soo-jin agreed, though not happily. She knew readiness meant more money, more risk, more tension. But she also knew that weakness would cost them more. Jae-hyun stood, closing his tablet. We leave the council for now, but we do not abandon hope. We prepare, we watch, and we reach out when the time is right. His voice was calm, but his eyes held a spark. He believed in this plan. He believed humanity could do both. Protect itself and still offer peace. Across the galaxy, back on the council station, alien leaders reacted with shock and anger. Many were surprised by the human withdrawal. In the grand chambers, Counselor Varric leaned back in his chair, his scales shimmering. He whispered to a group of hardliners. He saw this as a victory. The humans had shown their willingness to walk away rather than be humiliated. That meant power. Ambassador Tyra watched him, her green eyes calm but troubled. She felt a pang of regret. She had hoped to bring humans in, not push them out. She stood up and addressed the other counselors in a smaller, more private meeting. We may have misread them, she said quietly. They are not naive. They are proud. They will not yield if they feel threatened. Some of the moderates agreed. They began to push for a compromise. They argued that the harsh demand for disarmament could destroy any chance of real trust. We must show that we value them as equals, Tyra said, not as a lesser race, but as a potential partner. A few aliens, more cautious, still sided with Varric. They warned that humans would use their fleet later, if given the chance. They called for stronger measures, more inspections, tighter control, even limits on human technology transfers. While the alien leaders argued, spies and agents on both sides watched closely. On the human side, Min-hee and Jae-hyun organized discreet communication lines. They set up hidden transmitters on neutral stations. They asked for Tyra's help to route their messages. Min-hee's linguistic training proved critical. She encoded human signals so that only friendly alien ears could pick them up. Meanwhile, Soo-jin worked with human security officers to strengthen defense protocols. They upgraded sensors on frontier stations, improved the readiness of human warships, and ran training exercises under the cover of routine patrols. They made sure that, if needed, humans could respond fast, without making a show of force. On one remote human colony world, a mining station at the edge of alien space sent a small distress call. It said nothing of a direct attack, but they had detected an alien patrol nearby. The message was not urgent, but it was a warning. The human delegation took it seriously. They activated a small fleet unit and positioned it to shadow the alien patrol without firing. It was a clear, controlled signal. Humans would not back down, but they would not start a war either. Back in the council, Tyra and her allies met secretly. They drafted a proposal. Instead of forcing humans to disarm, the council would offer joint training missions. Humans and alien troops would train together. There would be oversight. There would be shared bases, so both sides could monitor each other. Tyra carried this draft to a private vote among moderate counselors. But Varric and his faction resisted. They whispered that shared bases meant risk, that aliens might be putting themselves in danger. They argued that only disarmament offered real control. Tyra, frustrated, still believed in peace. She looked at her fellow counselors and said, "We risk losing them. If we push them too hard, they will go away. They might even build their own alliances." Her voice was sincere, but some in the room looked away. While the debate went on, human civilians on Earth and other human worlds watched the news. The withdrawal made headlines. Some cried betrayal. How could humans walk out on peace? Others cheered. It was a bold move, a sign of strength. People rallied in public squares, in cities, in space stations. They held up banners. Stand strong, no bluffing, trust through strength. Min-hee observed the reactions on a news feed. She felt torn. She hated to see fear among her people, but she understood why many were proud. They believed in what their leaders were doing. They believed that humanity deserved respect, not pity. Soo-jin visited one frontier colony after returning from the main ship. She walked among the miners, engineers, and families. She spoke with them quietly. "We are doing this for you," she said. "We protect, but we also demand fairness." The colonists nodded. They were frightened, But they were also hopeful. Jae-hyun stayed in the command center, reviewing intelligence reports about alien responses. He saw the bigger picture. This was not just about military strength. This was about respect, fear, pride, and trust. He believed that humans had to show they meant business, but also that they wanted to build something lasting. Late one night, Min-hee and Tyra met on a small neutral outpost, far from the council's grand hall. The place was quiet, filled with soft lights and distant hums of machinery. Tyra leaned in, her voice low. "They judged you too quickly. They thought you were weak, but you showed them otherwise." Min-hee nodded. "We did, but now we must be careful. Power without patience can become arrogance." Humans had begun to settle into their own rhythm after withdrawing from the peace talks. On their starship, the delegation moved through the corridors with purpose. Jae-hyun, Min-hee, and Soo-jin worked together more closely than ever. They all felt a change in the air. The council had underestimated humanity, and that could be dangerous, but it also gave the humans opportunity. Jae-hyun sat in a study, reviewing reports from a frontier. He read about new patrol routes, updated sensor logs, and minor incursions by alien ships. These were not full attacks, just probes, tests. He frowned as he thought. The council was pushing back, but not in a way that would force a war. It felt calculated, cautious, exactly what humans feared, but perhaps exactly what they needed. Meanwhile, Min-hee was busy in another part of the ship, working on codes and messages. She sat at a small terminal, sending carefully encoded signals to allies in the council who had shown sympathy, especially Ambassador Tyra. Her fingers moved over the glowing keys, and she took a steady breath. Every message was balanced between honesty and prudence. She knew one wrong phrase could provoke suspicion, but the right words could win support. Soo-jin, on the other hand, oversaw the defense teams. She stood on the deck of a warship that escorted the delegation's flagship. Around her, human pilots loaded their gear, ran checks on their ships, and maintained weapon systems. Soo-jin watched each step carefully. She made sure every captain understood their mission, to defend if necessary, but not to initiate conflict. Under her command, the readiness was razor-sharp, but the posture was defensive, not aggressive. On a border station near alien space, a small human outpost made its presence felt. The station was modest but well-built, sensors, communication arrays, and docking bays. From there, human scouts slowly expanded their network of listening posts. Min-hee helped design some of those listening systems, making sure that humans could hear signals from alien ships, but remain nearly invisible in their own transmissions. In the council, the alien factions watched these developments with mixed reactions. Varick's hardliners grew uneasy. They believed the humans must be preparing for war. Some of them whispered among themselves that human strength should be crushed while they were still proving themselves. Others, more cautious, believed in Tyra's proposal for joint missions instead. Tyra herself was busy. She quietly held meetings with moderate counselors, pushing for her idea of joint training bases. She argued that if humans and aliens trained together, trust would grow. She pointed out that a strong, stable human fleet could make the council safer, not weaker. But Varick's faction raised counterarguments. "How can we trust them?" they said. "They are temperamental, proud. Strength can hide a threat." At the same time, spies and intelligence agents on both sides listened closely to every signal. The humans had set up covert transmitters on neutral outposts. Min-hee and her team used encryption to protect their messages. And in the council, Tyra's allies shared their suspicions. Some hardliners privately funded small reconnaissance missions to follow human ships. One day, a small alien patrol vessel came close to the human frontier station. It did not attack, but it stayed long enough to be seen. Human sensors flagged its presence, and Soo-jin activated a forward human squadron to shadow it. The human ships did not fire. Instead, they maintained formation, staying at a safe distance, showing strength but not hostility. From his command center, Jae-hyun watched the situation unfold. He ordered his captains to maintain calm. He did not want a provocation, but he also did not want to look weak. His voice was steady. "Stay alert. Report everything. Respond only if they threaten." Minhee listened in too, via encrypted comms. She sent a message to Tyra, describing the alien patrol's behavior. Tyra replied back through their secret channel. They are testing you. They want to see how you react. Minhee nodded quietly, though Tyra could not see her. She knew that this was a test humanity had to pass, not by giving in, but by standing strong. Soo-Jin's squadron stayed near the patrol, and her pilots whispered among themselves. One of them, a young officer named Choi Sung-won, said, "They are dangerous, but we are watching them." Another, Han Ji-hoon, added quietly, "This is not a fight yet, but we need to be ready always." Soo-Jin called them into a brief huddle in space. "Listen," she said, "we don't want to start a war, but we must defend our people. Our job is to show that we are not a weak race, but also not a warmonger." Sung-won nodded, his eyes firm. Ji-hoon looked down at his console, fingers poised. The pilots understood the balance, strength and restraint. Back on the human delegation ship, Minhee reviewed more data. She noticed small patterns, where alien patrols went, how often and how long they stayed. She thought these were not random. Someone in the council was coordinating these tests. She sent another message to Tyra, carefully crafting her words. "If they want to test us, we pass. But we also want real peace. We want respect." Tyra responded with cautious optimism. "I agree, but we must nudge the others, not push so hard that they shut us out again." Jae-hyun and Soo-Jin joined Minhee in a war room meeting. Around them, maps of space, sensor data, and communications logs glowed. Jae-hyun pointed at a map. "Here, these patrols come from this quadrant." He tapped a cluster of dots. "I want to send a non-combat squadron to observe them more closely. No weapons firing, but a clear presence." Soo-Jin considered. "Yes, but limited. Our pilots must be disciplined. If we do this wrong, they might think it's a provocation." Minhee nodded. "And I will open a second encrypted line to Tyra's allies. We can push for joint mission planning from both sides. If we can get just a few of their officers to train with us, that will build real trust." They agreed. The plan was set. Meanwhile, in the council, Tyra faced resistance. Some moderate counselors were afraid of Varric's backlash. They asked, "What if the humans use this to hide their true power?" Tyra replied, gently but firmly, "Then let them see. Let us shine in truth, not fear. We build trust by working, not by forcing." A small group of counselors reluctantly supported her. They set up a special committee to explore the joint training base idea. It would not be full disarmament. Instead, a monitored exchange, shared drills, and oversight. But Varric's faction remained vocal. They demanded more. They said that humans should allow inspection of their ships, limit their expansion, and agree to curfews on their frontier colonies. They saw the exchange not as a way to build trust, but as a way to control humanity. Tyra argued back. She told them, "If we control them too harshly, we will never gain true peace. Fear is not the path to cooperation." Some counselors agreed. Others stayed silent. Back with the humans, their forward squadron continued to shadow alien vessels. Jae-hyun, Minhee, and Soo-Jin all felt the tension. But they also felt something else. Growing respect from both sides. Humans were no longer simply petitioners. They were players. The small neutral space station trembled slightly as plasma thrusters from nearby ships flared. In a clean, softly lit docking bay, Jae-hyun, Minhee, and Soo-Jin walked side by side, moving toward a meeting room where alien officers were waiting. This meeting was different from the formal council chamber. They had asked for a gathering under the new plan. Joint training proposals, oversight, trust building. Minhee's heart thudded. She carried her communications tablet in one hand. She knew how delicate this moment was. If the aliens rejected their offer, it would mean not just another failure. It could mean war. Soo-Jin walked with quiet strength, scanning the room, noting the glances. Jae-hyun kept a steady posture, but his mind spun with possibilities. In the meeting room, a small group of alien counselors and military officers had assembled. Tyra was there, her green skin softly glowing under the lights. She greeted the humans with a bow. Next to her stood a younger alien officer, his carapace shining, a representative of a moderate faction. But across the table, Counselor Varric's cold eyes watched carefully. He did not smile. He leaned forward, his tail curled quietly behind him. Jae-hyun spoke first. We propose joint training for both our forces. Not because we want to hide something. We do this to build real trust. His voice was calm, but under it lay firm resolve. Tyra nodded in agreement. Trust is fragile. But if our soldiers train together, they learn each other's tactics, each other's values. They see that no one plans betrayal, or at least cooperation might help prevent that. Varric's tongue flicked out. You are asking us to accept your war machines next to ours. Are we to believe you will not use them against us later? His words were sharp, testing. Soo-jin replied, her tone firm but respectful. We do not ask you to ignore our power. We ask you to share it under rules. If there is no trust, then weapons are just threats. But if we train together, we can watch, learn, and guard. That is safer than you think. Men, he leaned in. We are ready to open our ships for joint inspection, but only under agreed protocols, and only by officers you trust. She swung her tablet gently, showing diagrams of inspection schedules, safety checks, and oversight details. The alien officer next to Tyra raised his brow. This is unusual. We rarely allow outsiders to inspect so freely. His voice held curiosity more than hostility. Jae-hyun nodded. We know, but humans do not hide by nature. If you let us show you, you will see there is no hidden war plan. There is only a desire to belong, to be taken seriously. Varric's expression did not shift easily. He placed his hands on the table, his claws tapping once. And if we do this and you betray us, would watches and inspection stop you? His question hung heavy. Soo-jin raised her eyes. If we betray you, we betray ourselves. Humanity's future depends on trust, not on a surprise attack. Her voice carried sincerity. We are strong, yes, but strength without respect brings isolation. We do not want isolation. Tyra stepped back in. Let us adopt a joint base here, on this neutral station. We can build training rooms, share briefings, run exercises. Let your officers and ours inspect one another's ships. Let us guard together. Minhee's pulse raced. She felt hope, but she also sensed that Varric would not give in easily. She watched him carefully. Varric leaned back. His tail uncoiled slowly. He looked at Tyra, then at the human trio. I will not publicly promise this, but I will bring the proposal to my faction, on one condition. We must maintain a right to limit certain human technologies. Not all weapons, but some. If you share everything, you may become dangerous. Jae-hyun's face tightened. He did not like the idea, but he understood diplomacy. If that is your condition, we can discuss what technologies, but we ask you to be fair. Do not treat us like children. Soo-jin raised a firm voice. We want to protect our people. We will not accept limits that make us weak, but we will negotiate smartly. The alien officer by Tyra regarded them quietly. Tyra put a gentle hand on his arm. We will meet again soon. We will bring detailed proposals. Her voice was soft, but carried command. After the meeting, the humans left the room slowly. In the corridor, Minhee exhaled. That was harder than I thought. She paused, looking at Jae-hyun and Soo-jin. Soo-jin's face was thoughtful. He may agree, but only partly. We will need allies inside his faction, and we must guard our own ships very well. Jae-hyun nodded. Yes, but we moved forward. We made them think. And in diplomacy, movement matters. On the alien side, Varric returned to the private chamber with his hardline group. They offer inspection, but they hide something, one of his advisors said, his voice low. If we let them inspect, we lose power. Varric's tail lashed. We will limit the technologies we inspect. Let them keep some of their advanced systems. But not all. We must maintain control. A dissenting counselor, more moderate, spoke up, but if we refuse too harshly, they will pull away again. We saw what happened when they walked out of council. Tyra's faction argued softly for cooperation. This is not weakness. This is smart. If we build shared bases, we can understand them. Fewer mistakes. Maybe real peace. Varric frowned. Maybe. He did not sound convinced. Meanwhile, aboard the human ship, Minhee and her team worked fast. She sat at the terminal and connected to the secure comms network. She sent a message to Tyra. We accept limited inspection if you guarantee fairness. Please keep pressure on your counselors. We need champions. She paused and added, Thank you, Tyra, for believing we can be trusted. Tyra's reply came soon. You make sense. There are others like me. I will speak again and again. On the human frontier, Sue Jean spoke with her captains. They stood in a simulation room, practicing joint exercises in virtual space with alien protocols in mind. In these drills, human pilots flew side by side with alien ships, at least in simulation. They practiced formation flying, communications, discipline. Sue Jean observed quietly. She saw pilots from both sides hesitate, then adapt. She saw alien captains nod at human skill. She saw trust begin to grow, even if only in training. In one simulation, a sudden attack was triggered. A mock enemy ship appeared. Human and alien ships scrambled. At first, their coordination was rough. But then, with steady commands, they worked together. Alien ships shielded, human ships flanked, and they simulated a coordinated defense. When the exercise ended, the room fell silent. Then, softly, some alien captains applauded. Some human pilots smiled. It was a small victory, but a real one. Back in the neutral station's briefing room, Minhee and some alien liaison officers talked quietly. If we really build trust, we need transparency, she said softly. Let us open our ship logs. Let you see our frontier patrols. She paused. We are not asking you to trust blind, but if you see, you'll understand. One of the alien officers looked at her with unexpected respect. You are brave, but trust is not built in a day. His voice was low, careful. Minhee nodded. We know, but we are ready to try. The human and alien officers gathered on the new neutral training base. The station hovered in space, silent and clean, its walls shining softly with lights. Humans and aliens stood in the same courtyard, waiting. The air felt tense, but also hopeful. Jaehyun watched from a small raised platform. He stood beside Minhee and Sue Jean. Minhee held her tablet. Sue Jean folded her arms, ready. Many human officers stood in formation behind them. Some alien officers stood on the other side, including some from Tyra's moderate faction, and a few from Varric's side, though their faces were colder. Jaehyun spoke quietly to the group. Today, we begin joint exercises. Not to fight each other, but to learn together. His voice was calm and firm. He smiled slightly. We train not for war, but for trust. An alien captain stepped forward, a tall, insectoid officer with glossy carapace plates. She introduced herself as Captain Rena. She nodded politely at the humans. We will begin with basic drills. Communication, coordination, discipline, she said in her clear voice. Sue Jean gave a short nod. Our pilots and officers are ready. We trust you will respect our tactics as we respect yours. She looked around. Her eyes were steady. Minhee tapped on her tablet. She brought up the first simulation. On the hollow screen above them, a virtual field appeared. Platforms in zero gravity, astro-like obstacles and docking stations. The simulation was simple but real enough to test alliance. Human and alien ships would have to maneuver together in tight formation. They would have to avoid collisions, communicate clearly, and act as one unit. Sue Jean called out orders. Humans on the left wing, aliens on the right. Form up. Use the standard comm protocol. The officers moved, their ships or units forming lines. At first, some were slow, hesitant. Humans were careful, aliens were cautious. But as they practiced, their movements grew smoother. One human pilot, Kim Dong-wook, flew close to an alien ship. He adjusted his thrusters and matched their speed. The alien pilot, Liera, shifted too, letting him take the same pace. They flew side by side through the virtual obstacles. A few glints of light passed by, like simulated asteroid fragments. Dong-wook called out, "Obstacle ahead, 2 o'clock." Liera echoed, "Copy." They curve around in perfect time. The formation held. A cheer came from some of the officers watching. It was small but real. After the simulation, humans and aliens gathered to talk. Some alien officers smiled. Some humans straightened their posture. Captain Renna looked pleased. "Good work," she said. "You adapt well. Your pilots are disciplined." Su-Jin nodded. "And your officers are precise. We learn a lot from each other." Jae-hyun stepped forward. "This is only the beginning." He looked at the alien officers. "We will open our ships for inspection soon, as promised. But we ask that your teams also show their systems in return. Transparency must go both ways." An older alien commander, with rich skin and silver feathers, spoke softly. "We agree in principle, but trust must grow slowly. We must set limits at first, which systems we inspect, how often." Min, he offered her tablet. She had prepared schedules. "Here's a proposal. We list non-lethal systems first: navigation, communications, basic power. Later, we may examine weapons or strategic subsystems once trust deepens." The commander nodded. "That plan is acceptable to many in my faction. We will review it." He paused, looking at Jae-hyun. "But understand, if you betray us, the cost will be great." Jae-hyun met his gaze. "We know, and so do you." He paused. "But we also know that peace requires risk. We take that risk together." Meanwhile, in a side corridor, Minhee and Tyra stood quietly. Tyra's green skin glinted in the corridor lights. She leaned close and said, "They still doubt you." Her voice was soft. "But they saw something today. They saw you flying side by side." Minhee nodded slowly. "Yes, but it is not enough. We need more trust, more shared missions, more shared work." Tyra placed a gentle hand on Minhee's shoulder. "Then we build it piece by piece." Back in the main courtyard, Su-Jin directed more exercises. This time, they practiced rescue drills. A simulated ship breaks down, and both human and alien teams must coordinate to help. Alien engineers floated out on repair drones. Human security teams provided support. Everyone worked in tandem. Communication, caution, care. At one point, a simulated emergency alarm rang. Human and alien responders rushed in. Su-Jin called out directions. "You, repair drone. Move to left hull. You, security, shield the damaged section." The two sides moved together. Minhee watched from her console, heart pounding. This was a test she had hoped for. Strength, but not only strength, cooperation. When the drill ended, a human engineer and an alien technician floated near each other in microgravity. The human, Young Ki-beam, looked at the alien, Sela, and said quietly, "Good work." She nodded. "You too." Their voices were calm but respectful. Jae-hyun raised his voice to address everyone. "That is what I hoped for. We do not come here to be enemies. We come to be partners. We will train. We will share. We will watch over each other." An officer from Varric's faction, watching from the edge, frowned. His tail flicked. He did not speak, but his eyes registered every move. After the training session ended, humans and aliens gathered in a dining hall. The room was simple but warm. Tables floated gently in microgravity. Small lights shone above. Some humans and aliens shared meals. Human food, alien food, simple dishes, strange new tastes. Jae-hyun sat between Tyra and Captain Renna. Minhee sat with alien liaison officers. Su-Jin spoke with human captains. Minhee tasted an alien dish, something like spice root, and smiled. "It is good," she said. The alien beside her nodded approvingly. Connection grew in the simple act of sharing food. Su-Jin leaned in to talk with her captains. "Be honest," she said quietly. "Do you trust them more now?" The captains exchanged glances. Some nodded. Several admitted quietly that they did. "Yes, a little more than before." Their voices were low, but real. Jae-hyun raised his cup, a small cup of a warm human drink. He addressed the room. "To the first day of something new. To trust. To cooperation. Others raised their cups in response. Human mugs, alien bowls, all lifted in unison. A few alien officers stood back. Varric's people watched, arms crossed. But one young alien lieutenant, whose carapace was pale blue, stepped forward. He raised his own bowl. "To partnership," he said. His voice was uncertain, but sincere. A few others nodded. It was small but meaningful. As the night went on, humans and aliens talked quietly. They shared stories of their homeworlds, their fears, their hopes. Minhee listened to an alien officer talking about her home planet's culture. Sujin talked to human frontier colonies and what they had sacrificed. Jae-hyun spoke of humanity's desire not just to be powerful, but to be respected. Tyra came to Jae-hyun's side and whispered, "You did well today." Very few believed this could work. Her voice carried warmth, but also relief. Jae-hyun nodded. "It is a start, but we must stay careful. This could go wrong as easily as it goes right." Sujin joined them. "Yes, but now we have something they cannot erase easily: trust in action." The neutral station glowed softly under distant stars, and its docking bays cradled both human and alien ships. Inside, Jae-hyun stood in the command center, the weight of many months pressing on his shoulders. This day was not just a meeting. It was a test of everything they had built. The Joint Oversight Commission was to hold its first full session, and all sides were watching. Minhee was beside him, her tablet in hand, ready to project their proposal. Sujin stood a little behind them, alert and cautious. The room was crowded. Human diplomats and officers, alien counselors, military liaisons, even some of the more cautious hardliners who had been wary before. Jae-hyun cleared his throat. "We meet today not as rivals, but as partners," he said, his voice calm. "We have trained, inspected, and shared. Now we ask you to judge us not by fear, but by what we have done." He paused. "Let this commission be the place where trust becomes real." Tyra, the green-skinned alien ambassador, nodded from across the table. Beside her was Captain Renna and some other officers who had grown to respect their human counterparts. Even Varric's representative had arrived, though his expression was guarded. Minhee tapped her tablet, and a projected charter appeared in midair. It showed agreements, inspection schedules, shared training protocols, and joint mission plans. She spoke clearly. "These are the rules we propose. We open our non-lethal systems first. Then, gradually, if trust holds, more sensitive systems may be shared. We propose joint patrols, rescue missions, and co-command training exercises." A quiet murmur ran through the room. Some alien diplomats nodded. Others exchanged looks. The Varric representative leaned forward. "You ask a lot," he said. "Some of us fear this openness. There is risk." Sujin stepped forward. Her tone was respectful but firm. "Yes, there is risk. But without risk, there is no trust. We will not dominate you. We will not hide. We stand ready to be held accountable." The Varric representative's eyes narrowed. "If we agree to this, we need guarantees, not just words. We need real people, not just diplomats, to inspect. We need joint teams." Jae-hyun nodded. "We agree. We propose a joint oversight team, human and alien officers. They will inspect, train, and report to this commission." He pointed to the charter. "Here." Tyra smiled softly. "That is acceptable to many of us. But there must also be safeguards." She turned to her fellow alien counselors. "Let's not build a straw bridge. We must forge a real one." A moment of silence followed. Then the Varric representative exhaled slowly. "Very well," he said. "I will support this, under strict protocol. But any violation, human or alien, must be punished." Jae-hyun accepted. Agreed. With that, the commission voted. It was close, but they passed the charter. The room erupted quietly in applause, cautious, hopeful. Humans and the moderates among the aliens exchanged glances, smiles, even nods. Later, in a quieter room, the three human leaders, Jae-hyun, Minhee, and Sujin, sat together. Tears touched Minhee's eyes, and she blinked them back. "We did it," she whispered. Sujin gave her a small, proud smile. "Yes, but this is just the beginning." Her voice was steady. We must honor this trust with action. Jae-hyun looked at them both. We will. We have shown strength, yes. But now, we must show we care more about partnership than power. Over the following weeks, the new joint teams were assembled. Human and alien officers were paired. Sometimes 2 humans with 1 alien, sometimes the reverse. They learned each other's tactics, cultures, and habits. Sometimes there were misunderstandings. Sometimes words were lost in translation. But slowly respect grew. On a routine mission, a mixed squad was sent to a remote sector where a small alien colony needed help after a mining accident. Human engineers, alien medics, and joint security forces worked together. They saved lives. They repaired equipment. The people of the colony watched, awed, as humans and aliens worked side by side. Back on the station at the oversight base, inspections took place. Alien teams walked through human ships, inspecting navigation arrays and communication systems. Human teams examined alien engineering bays. There was no subterfuge, no hidden weapons. At least nothing beyond what was agreed. At one point, an alien young lieutenant named Sang-woo, a human-alien hybrid name, but used respectfully, approached Min-hee. He had helped inspect a human ship. I did not know what to expect, he said quietly, but I saw your people are not hiding. I saw honesty. Min-hee nodded. Her heart warmed. That means a lot. She paused. Trust is something we build, not something we demand. Soo-jin watched from a distance. She saw human and alien soldiers laughing together during a break. She saw them sharing small stories of home planets, families, hopes. She realized that human strength had not only earned respect, it had invited connection. Jae-hyun stood on a balcony of the base one evening, looking out at the stars. The docking bays were busy, mixed ships coming and going. He placed his hand on Min-hee's shoulder, and she leaned in. Do you think they really trust us now? She asked quietly. He turned to her. Some do. Some are still careful. But we have opened a door. We walked away once. We came back not because we needed them, but because we believe in something bigger, a real peace. Soo-jin joined them. She placed her hand on Jae-hyun's back. We protected, we demanded fairness, and now we build. Her voice was gentle but firm. Tyra came to stand beside them. She smiled softly. I am proud of what we have achieved, but I am more hopeful for what comes next. Her green eyes shone in the light. Then Varric appeared. He was quiet, serious. He watched the docking bay for a moment, then turned to Jae-hyun. You have shown resolve, he said. You have not broken the rules. But know this, trust is delicate. Jae-hyun nodded. We know. We will not waste it. Varric's tail flicked. Then let us watch together. As equals, if we can. The 3 humans and the 2 aliens stood quietly, looking out at the ships. Some weeks later, word arrived at the council. Other alien races, watching the success of the joint base, began asking for similar cooperation with humans. The tide was shifting. Humanity was no longer the outsider asking for entry. It was becoming a bridge, a force of connection. On Earth and the human colonies, people cheered quietly. The human delegation's sacrifice, its bold withdrawal, and then its calm return were praised. Leaders spoke of a new chapter, not just for humanity, but for the council. In a final ceremony on the training station, Jae-hyun addressed the gathered crowd. We began this journey by walking away. Today, we rebuild, not alone, but together. We will guard peace. We will grow together. If we stay strong but open, then we can change the future. His voice was steady, sure. Min-hee stood beside him, her tablet now folded. Soo-jin stood firm, ready for whatever came. Tyra and some of the other alien counselors stood behind them, some smiling, some still cautious, but all present. When Jae-hyun finished, he raised a glass, a simple human gesture. Others raised theirs. Alien cups, human mugs, quiet celebrations. For a moment, there was only hope. As night fell on the station, the stars shining bright, the 3 humans stood together. They had risked much. They had insisted on respect. And now they had something real.